Father. Good to see you, man.
What's up?
Nothing much. You keeping these two guys in line?
I try. It takes a little bit of muscle and a little bit of moxie. I'm working on the moxie part.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're gonna get there with everything. We'll button it up by the end of the show today. Let's talk some Super Bowl now, if you will. If you're an Eagles fan, you've undoubtedly gotten some advice to stay positive about this matchup with the Patriots. And technically, the proverbial glass is always half full. Doug Pederson has taken the team to the Super Bowl in just his second season as Eagles head coach. The same season, he lost the starting quarterback, left tackle, and middle linebacker. But just that. Here he is on connecting with his players.
I think that having the connection, having been in the locker room, I think, having understanding the dynamic of what a team needs, what a team should feel, how we should practice, how we should play, when to take the pads off, when to put the pads back on. I think all of that is part of, that emotional intelligence that we all and I try to strive for and to have with the guys. And I think that relationship has gone a long way this season.
Chris, Canty, I think it's fair to say that if you lined up every head coach at the beginning of the season, there aren't many people who would have said, now, Doug Pederson, that guy is taking his team to the Super Bowl. I think this sort of came out of nowhere a little bit for Doug Pederson. What do you think the key has been to his success?
Well, you know what? You make an interesting point, Jenna. 2 years ago, when the Eagles made that hire, everybody was criticizing the Eagles organization because they were saying that was probably the worst head coach hiring during that hiring cycle. But you look at what Doug Pederson has done with this team in the last 2 years, being able to retool the roster and deal with kind of the Chip Kelly philosophy of things and being able to adjust his scheme to take advantage of what was already in place while having a clear direction in terms of where you want to move this team to from an identity standpoint. But also what he's been able to do in terms of being able to overcome the losses of key
injuries,
veteran players like Darren Sproles and Jason Peters, not only what they mean on the field in terms of production, but what they mean to that locker room in leadership. And that's why I think that's one of the most, undersold parts of head coaching in the National Football League is having a pulse of your locker room and understanding the different dynamics of your team. And so to be able to understand where your team is at and being able to continue to motivate those guys, not allowing them to use injuries as an excuse, the fact that you lost Carson Wentz, who was playing at an MVP-type level, and you're able to put in your backup quarterback in Nick Foles. Granted, he does have experience in this league as a starter, but being able to put him in, knowing that he's a different quarterback with a different skill set and still find a way to be able to win and still find a way to be able to motivate your team. I mean, you look at the only loss that they have in Nick Foles' 5 starts, and it was a meaningless game in Week 17 against the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm impressed by what Doug Pederson has done with this team.
You just don't have to. You don't have to look any further than the division. The Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys lost their left tackle for a couple games. What are we going to do? You can't win without him. Dallas Cowboys the Eagles lost their left tackle for the season. Dallas Cowboys lost their middle linebacker for a couple games. The team you can't win without Sean Lee. There's nothing to do. The team falls apart. The Eagles lost their middle linebacker. It's not as good as Sean Lee, but a good player for the entire season. They then lose their quarterback. And the fact that the team didn't privately say, okay, well, you know what I mean? It's been a good year, but we're sunk. That is a testament to the head coach. I still don't know if Doug Pederson is a great head coach. But what we have learned this year is the idea that the Eagles whiffed because Ben McAdoo didn't come down for the second interview, if you remember. They settled on Doug Pederson. The idea that the Eagles whiffed on their head coaching position, that's gone now. We now know he's at the very least an average to above average head coach, and we'll see over the following years how great he actually is.
Yeah, I think Doug Pederson was a good hire. I think that they have the rare combination. And I don't believe this is essential that you have to play in the National Football League to be able to understand or coach in the league. I just believe you have to be a good coach. I don't care where you came from. You can coach in high school. You can coach in college. If you can communicate and teach, because you're a teacher, but you're teaching at the highest level. Everyone can't do it. Doug Pederson has proven that he was a good positional coach, and he could be a coordinator. We don't know when they take that next step what they're going to do. We don't know if they become Doug Pederson or we don't know if they become Ben McAdoo. All right? Like, there is that real possibility in real time, under the lights. That's what happens. But let me tell you what he's got going for him. More than being a former NFL player, more than being in a locker room, he's got a great support staff. He's got an owner They got a great stadium situation. They're one of the most profitable teams in the National Football League. So he has the support. He has the eye, the ear, and the support and connectivity with Howie Roseman, the general manager. They went through a huge power struggle. Howie got control back of the personnel. And if you look at some of the personnel decisions that they've made, drafting Carson Wentz, that was not a no-brainer. And some of the other little pieces that they've added.
Remember when they added Jay Ajayi? That Doug Pederson allegedly, or according to him, said, I didn't believe
Remember the conversation.
Yeah.
Just how nice it was. How he came to him. Hey, what about Jay Ajayi? Yeah, can we add him? Yeah, stop kidding me, though.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no, I can get him. Went out and got him. So when you have that type of support, these are the teams that win more. These are the teams that, when we start the season, the Eagles are trying to win a Super Bowl. All right? They're one of the 12 teams that I think. Doug Pederson, they got it right in the head coach because he didn't make excuses, and no team has lost more valuable players. They didn't lose a middle linebacker. They lost Jordan Hicks. Man, he is a good football player. They lost one of the best left tackles. They lost maybe the best quarterback this year who was playing at an MVP level. They lost Darren Sproles. I mean, a specialist, a return, third down. So let's give the organization.
Sure.
It starts at the top in supporting the coach through management to lead them to Super Bowl success and Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis.
And also adding to what you just said, because all of those things are true, I think an important factor to consider here is that Doug Pederson, he has the trust of his players. I mean, as a football player, all you want is your head coach to be able to give you answers to the test. Like, we all want to know what the answers to the test are. We love open book tests because you can have the answers. You can find the answers to the test. When your head coach has answers in terms of real solutions on how you can win games, how you can consistently be successful, then I think that you trust that head coach and you're willing to go out there because you have confidence. When you're a confident player, you're a faster player, you execute better. I think that's key for this Philadelphia Eagles team, especially in the postseason. I think we see Nick Foles. We had a little skepticism after the offense struggled those last two regular season games, but then seeing what they did against the Atlanta Falcons, how he picked it up in the second half, seeing what he did against the Minnesota Vikings, I think this team is growing more and more confident in their head coach's ability to put them in situations where they can be successful, and you can't understate that enough. You know, I mean, that's huge for a player.
Is it more than just X's and O's and trust when it comes to the players, you know, taking in a head coach and following his leadership? Is there something else? Is there an intangible? I mean, you talk about Denny Green all the time and like his wisdom. And what is it in a head coach that moves you and makes you do things that you couldn't do without his guidance?
Yeah, Jenna, you are hitting it right. It's not X's and O's because you spend so much time together. It's also leadership. It's also, does he care about us as men? And you've seen that. The culture in Philadelphia. Man, Chip Kelly was monitoring the guys around the clock.
Right.
I mean, they were not happy with Chip Kelly. So the overall culture, and now, you know, not having a college coach who's trying to be a ruler and dictator over and have a grown man who's, I've been in this NFL locker room. I've been through NFL seasons, and understanding it helps bring the roster back together. And that's probably the biggest change. Not only from I'm going to be a big, powerful football team compared to Chip Kelly, I want to be undersized and small and agile. Those things have also changed.
All right, Chris, stick around. Coming up, the Pats think Gronk will play. So how do the Eagles slow him down? We'll break that down next. First things first.